From the New York Post, Jared Kushner shows off renderings of futuristic Gaza with skyscrapers and suburbs. Mara Gaza, ladies and gentlemen, it is on the way. Jared Kushner unveiled an ambitious vision Thursday for a cosmopolitan Gaza Strip that will attract investment and tourists after years of war. Looking much like his father-in-law, President Trump's call for converting the war-torn Mediterranean territory into a Riviera of the Middle East. Kushner, 45, showed off renderings of luxe beachfront skyscrapers and suburban subdivisions for the Palestinian territory's nearly 2 million people, many of whom are currently living in tents beneath rubble in the aftermath of a 2-year war that ended in October. I mean, you can look at these pictures, and I mean, it looks great if Israel doesn't bomb it.
You know, the Gaza 51st state. I
No.
brought this up 2 years ago.
No,
This is another example of Ian was right. So
No,
acknowledge
it's
I'm a
not.
prophet and that I will be your future president.
it's not. It's not going to be a 51st state.
It won't
It
be.
is not going to be a U.S. territory.
You think it'll be Israeli territory?
I assume so. Yeah, I assume so.
They're trying to set it up where there's going to be like a interim administration. They're claiming it'll be Palestinian led, and then eventually they do want to turn the governance of the territory back over to the PLO. And then this is the purpose of this Council of Board of Peace, things what they're calling it, is they're basically going to try and set up these international structures that will ensure the PLO doesn't just like they don't vote for Hamas again.
Well, I mean, the PLO, if it's the PLO, it might actually be something that's possible because, you know, the people in Gaza voted for Hamas, and Hamas, you know, then they ended elections, and Hamas was like, all right, we are here to kill Jews, right? Like that's their whole existence. Whereas if you look at the way the West Bank works, like you don't have the same kind of violence from the West Bank. Now there are obviously there are clashes and there are problems. There are problems with the Israeli settlements and there's disagreements and fights about that. But it's not what Gaza was, right?
Yeah.
Like Gaza they had to close the borders with Gaza because Gaza was constantly firing rockets into Israel and stuff. So if you can get the PLO in there, the Palestinian Authority, like, yeah, not the PLO. Is it the PLO?
It's the PLO.
Yeah, the PLO.
Palestinian Liberation.
Well, that was the Palestinian. Well, no, now it's the Palestinian Authority, right? Yeah. So if you can get the Palestinian Authority into Gaza and have them in charge, I think that it's possible. The new Rafah, they're talking about 100,000 plus permanent housing units, 200 plus education centers, cultural, religious, and vocational centers, and 75 medical facilities. New Gaza, which would be developed later, would be a hub of industry and employment, he said. In the beginning, we're toying with the idea of saying, let's build a free zone, and then we have a Hamas zone. And then we said, you know what? Let's just plan for catastrophic success, says Kushner, who alongside Special Envoy Steve Witkoff brokered an end to the war. Kushner also negotiated the Abraham Accords, establishing Israeli relations with 4 Arab countries during Trump's first term, and said the grandiose reconstruction vision may likewise seem impossible before it happens. Hamas signs a deal to demilitarize. That is what we are going to enforce. People ask us what our plan is, what our plan B is. We do not have a plan B, he said. We have a plan. We signed an agreement. We are all committed to making that agreement work. There's a master plan. We'll be doing it in phases. They've got demilitarization principles, the next 100 days. Do you think that this is something that's possible, Tate?
No.
No?
No, it's never going to happen. I mean, like, part of the issue.
I mean, Kushner's pretty good at this stuff.
Yeah, but the X factor is like the population. I mean, because that's the X factor. You know, not to like dunk on Gazans. Like, it's not what my intention when I'm just saying this as a reality. Is the reason the West Bank is somewhat functional and Gaza is not is because there's literally, I think it's like a 15 to 20 point IQ difference between Palestinians in Gaza and Palestinians in the West Bank. Because the West Bank, like if you look, like Bethlehem, for example, like the birthplace of Christ. By law, they have to have a Christian mayor. Like the West Bank has a lot of these like actually fairly decent agreements with the local population. It's a much more stitched together, like formalized part of the world. And then Gaza is like a war zone, and it has been for the last 20, 30 years. I don't know how you get the population of Gaza out of that mentality. So that's kind of the question, and it wasn't addressed. And this is like, okay, well, what are you going to do with the Gazans? And what seems to be happening is with Somaliland being set up, obviously now they've been recognized by Israel, and they'll probably be in turn recognized by the United States and probably a few other Western nations. Is the plan is they're going to try and dump a lot of the Gazans there, because that's been the biggest issue from the Israeli perspective is that they want to just push the Gazans out. The question is where, because these Arab states will not take them.
Nobody wants to take them. Every time you get a large population of the Palestinians, at least the Gazans, they try to take over the country. Right?
Well,
they tried to take over Kuwait.
Well,
they tried to take over. Jordan says we're not going to take them. Egypt, there was an uprising.
Well, and also to steelman the Arabs' position on why they don't want to take the Gazans is because they believe that the only leverage that they have in this entire conflict is the fact that Gazans are there. And so if you take the Palestinians out of Gaza, then there's zero leverage left for the Arab states. Like Israel can just effectively annex it. So that's the primary reason. Like Egypt, for example, doesn't want to take them. Yes, there's like the political ramifications of taking them in. Like Lebanon is a great example. Lebanon used to be primarily Christian. It was like 70% Christian at its establishment. Actually, the French designated Lebanon to be like the Christian state in the Middle East. And then as soon as a lot of the Palestinian refugees flooded in, changed the demographics, and now Lebanon's, by all accounts, a disaster. But personally, I also agree. I think it's the primary reason these Arab states don't want to take the Gazans in is because they feel like once you take them in as refugees, they won't go back, and then Israel can basically do what they want in Gaza, and then that takes away any leverage that the Arab states would have in the Gaza situation.
So it's less that they don't want to take them; it's more about that they want them to stay there.
They want them to stay there. Yeah. Again, that's their position, and that's what I suspect. Also, I think that probably is their reasoning for it. I mean, Phil has a point, and that's a factor of it. They've seen what happened in Lebanon to a degree in Jordan. But
I know it's. Sorry to interrupt. Did you have a cap there? It's like they say history rhymes, and it's like they're taking these people and they want to repopulate them, but they won't take them because when they arrive, they start making banks and become lawyers. No, it's not.
No, they're not making banks and lawyers.
Those are different people that do that.
They're trying to take over the country.
It's not the Gazans. It's the other populations that was ejected out of Germany because they would take over countries. They said. Crazy how it rhymes. Crazy.
They're not doing any favors to make anybody believe that this wasn't their intent all along. This is certainly not disproving or discouraging people from believing that. And it's like in the event that all of this was to happen, and the statement, where do we put the Gazans, is very funny. But it's like, who's going to make all the money from this? It's like, if they're investing all of this money to build all of these buildings, they're trying to extract as much value as possible out of there. And if there is so much money to be made, then could that have been the reason? Is that the reason? Does it look like that's the reason? That's why they did all of this in the first place?
I don't think it's so much as a monetary thing. I think it's just like it's a goal for Israel to not have to like deal with Gaza anymore.
To build a brand new city with skyscrapers and hundreds of thousands of homes.
Because it goes back to the question of like, okay, how do we get the Gazans out? Yeah. Again, that's the Israeli perspective. That's whatever.
I mean, look,
this could solve the Israel's problems, so to speak.
I mean, to Tate's point, like
this could be their final solution.
Yeah, so to speak.
I know. Isn't it crazy?
No, it's
one solution.
It's not the same thing.
It's just a potential final solution.
It's removed from the historical context. It is a solution.
By the way, that's what Hitler said about the Jews. Was he was looking for a final solution of what to do with those.
And that's a completely separate,
completely separate conversation.
But no, I mean,
actually is incredibly different.
But that's what's being set up in Somaliland. Is they finally found a partner that's in the region that would take the Gazans, and it is Somaliland.
And it's not just about Jewish people, Israelis, Gazans. Repopulation is an ancient thing that you do with a population when you conquered them. You oftentimes will just send them somewhere.
Well, a lot of times, historically, a lot of times they would just kill them all.
Well,
like in history, like when a conquering force comes in, a lot of times they would just kill all the men and boys, and then they would just take the women.
But that's why the post-war,
that's ironic, kind of.
That's why the post-war situation, the post-war consensus is interesting because we don't really do that much anymore. You don't see from countries that are bought into the global system. You actually don't really see many full-blown genocides anymore. What you do see is a lot of resettlement where, I mean, obviously Israel's killed quite a few people in Gaza, but if they wanted to eliminate everyone there, they probably could. But what you saw in Germany, for example, after the end of the war, they redrew the borders in Europe. They tried to clean things up. What happened was they cut Germany in half, and now a third of Germany is now Poland. You have a lot of Germans there. What do you do with them? Do you try to integrate them into Poland? No, you deport all of them back to Germany. So you saw these massive population exchanges occurring in Europe after the war. So I think that's kind of the precedent. Again, it's not great. I mean, you don't want to see people removed from where they live, but it's the reality. It's the world we live in, and so that's I think what's going on here is. I don't suspect if this happened, which I just don't even think is going to happen anyway, because you got to get the Gulf states to play along, and the Gulf states are probably not going to. They can barely complete a lot of these mega projects in their own countries. But even hypothetically, if it goes exactly to plan, Gazans aren't going to live there. No. They can't really support a sort of a society that looks like this.
They would just take all of the resources there and do everything they could to make more missiles and
what's going to
happen
into
Israel.
I think we all know what's going to happen is the ceasefire is going to be violated by either Israel or Gaza. This is going to happen.
It's been violated.
It's been violated a few times already, and then this ceasefire that again Kushner's putting a lot of weight into is just it's not going to hold. It won't.
Wouldn't it be cool if Jared Kushner and all the people that were going to invest into this project and everybody talking about it, wouldn't it be cool if they did that in, like, I don't know, America, like maybe Detroit or maybe literally anywhere? It's like, if we don't barely manufacture anything here, wouldn't this be helpful for America?
Yeah,
seems like that'd be kind of a good thing to do in America.
Yeah, because that's kind of the question, is like, who funds this? Again, if it's the Gulf states, that's great, but either way, like, I actually don't think there's going to be much money extracted. I think everyone's going to get their lunch eaten on this project. It's going to be really expensive. You're going to have to, again, you're gonna have to clean out all of the rubble.
Yeah.
You gotta demilitarize it. There's mines everywhere. There's a lot of weaponry. Like, it's gonna be a very, very expensive project. And
why
like,
would
unless
they do
the Saudis are, well, because like the Gulf states are, again, they're trying to form like a coalition against Iran. And so you have these Sunni Muslims looking at Israel, and they're like, they could be a more viable partner, because Israel's trying to position themselves as the regional power.
Yeah.
And so they just see like, okay, these Sunni states have the same enemy we do, which is Iran. And so that's what the incentive basically would be for these Gulf states. Is it's a geopolitical play. It's how they play ball with Israel and build that relationship.
Well, power translates into money. So in the event that this gives them the ability to have access to more power, then there's a lot of money to be made. So even whether or not they break even or whatever on this particular project, which I can't imagine that like real estate developers that have generated billions of dollars for themselves would just go into this thing not being able to make money. Yeah. Certainly there's a money play down the line somewhere, and I would wager that it's probably a ton of money. Not like, maybe we'll break even. I bet they're going to make a ton of money from that.
They're certainly trying to buy influence, and like, that's the way the world works outside of the West. The West is the only country that when they make these investments, they expect returns, where other countries, the way that they operate when they're building projects like this, specifically China, is they don't actually expect returns right away. They expect these to be geopolitical plays. Like, look, for example, with China's Belt and Road Initiative, where they built this massive deep water port in Sri Lanka. Again, they knew they were never going to make their money back on that. They knew that the Sri Lankan government was never actually going to be able to make payments on it. So what they did is they spent the money, they built the port as a like fantastic, massive deep sea, deep water port. Right? And then of course Sri Lanka falls behind on payments. They seize the port. You just bought influence. So it's like, okay, you lost some money, like from a pure like accounting perspective, but you just bought yourself a deep water port in the Indian Ocean. So it's like,
that's diplomats or heads of state making those decisions for the interest of that country. Jared is an independent citizen, with a bunch of investors that are also likely not states. They're people that are individuals that are willing to put up capital. And I mean, one of the most expensive parts of developing something like this would be the land itself. Yeah. And if you can just take it,
well,
you can steal beachfront property.
That's what it is.
It kind of kills a little bit of the cost structure down,
Yeah, because you have to look at like, and I'm not, like I don't really talk about Israel much, just because it's not. Most of my commentary is like American focused. But if you look at like the play here, who wins out of all of this? Israel benefits like dramatically. And so it's like, so it's like,
well, just getting the Gazans out. Israel. I mean, from Israel's perspective, if they can get the Gazans out, that's the win.
They,
whether or not, I mean, even if you just got the Gazans out and then paved all of the Gaza Strip and it was a parking lot, they would still benefit because they don't have to deal with the terrorism stuff.
Yeah, the whole reason like they haven't. I mean, some people will say Israel's just like a purely benevolent country, which I
but it's just
don't think it's the case. They're self-interested as every other country is, but like the Americans the Americans like do. I don't actually buy that Israel just like completely controls the United States, because we do have a line. Like if they went in and like just leveled Gaza like to the ground, the Americans would probably say like chill a little bit. They have. I mean, we've seen it before where they deny Israel strikes, these sorts of things. Like we do operate autonomously at times.
But we're going to create this Gaza Strip mall. That's what we're going to make
Gaza Strip mall.
This is give them jobs and opportunity. I've heard this before.
It's just funny how it says in the slideshow, it's like empowering Gazans.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Gazans are never going to see that.
Okay. No, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, look, the Israelis pulled out of Gaza in 2005 or whatever. That was empowering Gaza, and then they had a bunch of terrorist attacks, and then October 7th happened. Israel has no incentive to actually empower Gazans, because when the Gazans are empowered, it means Israelis die.
Yeah, that's the tragic. I'm not one of these people that like
that, but yeah.
Yeah, like I've never been one of these people that like completely like pearl clutches over Gaza, but I will say it's like very unfortunate the situation Gazans are in, because they're really just at the center of like a geopolitical struggle.
Yeah.
Nor Israel nor the Arab states are particularly concerned with the Gazans.
No, not at all.
They're really just kind of seen as like a chip to be played.
Yeah.
It's very
on both
unfortunate.
sides too.
That's what I mean. Yeah, Arab states and Israel
Yeah.
both again view these people as
Sad, man.
playing sort of like a chip on a board.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.